1 minute warning.
There you go. I'm here.
Curious, Susan, could you hear and see and all good during the municipal services?
Yeah, except for when the videos played, I didn't have an audio on that.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Nicole, here's your reminder. All Federal Way Public Schools. Nicole, here's your reminder.
Alexa, stop.
So for those people online, I'm going to have a difficult time seeing you. So please make your vote or any comment, or you have your hand up. You're going to have to make that verbal as well, please. Just be a moment here. Also, one other thing, can I get everybody to turn their name tags towards me, please?
That's honest.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And one other thing before we start, please, at the end of the meeting, make sure you take your cups and everything else and clean off your little area so the staff doesn't have to. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, confirmation of quorum. I have a quorum. Call the meeting to order. Meeting's order. We acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Lakotech people. Adoption of agenda. Second, move adoption from Director Wally. Second from Director Lott. Do I have discussion?
May I add a new topic under the agenda called grants and aid? Oh my gosh, my bad. I'll have to do that again.
Yes, you do. Please.
May I add a new item on the agenda under new business called grants and aid?
Under new business? Sure. Thank you. Great. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Petition and delegations? None. Adoption of meeting?
Move
Pardon me.
adoption of the minutes.
Director Colbert and Director Wally, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Business arising from minutes. Any new business? Arising from minutes, pardon me? No? We don't have to do a motion on that, do we? No. Excellent. Public consideration. There is no public consideration. Notice of motions? None? Chair's report. First thing I'd like to do is say congratulations to Julie Colburn. She is now officially sworn in as onto the SRD board, so congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
The second is regarding a little bit of Robert's rules. What we're going to do going forward, when we have something that's just going to be received, instead of having conversation about received, which in the past has proved to be somewhat confusing because that can go on for quite a while, then nobody knows if we're on a motion or where we are. So now what we're going to do, unless you have a motion to put in, at that point, we're just going to go from second into all in favor on receive, and then we'll address it on the second part if necessary. Does that work for everybody? Because there is confusion on the receive part.
Just a question, Mr. Chair. If no one has the intention of moving the recommendation, where would we go from there?
Then it's gone.
But there's no opportunity to speak to the issue. There might be a reason.
If it's not moved,
No, but during receipt, normally if we have another opinion, that would be the time to bring it up and say, well, I don't want to consider this recommendation because, just my thoughts on it.
CEO?
So if I can, Mr. Chair, so I think, again, whatever's the will of the board, just trying to bring some clarity. It's been an issue with the board for years moving forward, that the point of receipt is to whether the board's gonna accept the report just to talk about it. And I think what we've got into a lot of time is just getting into the topic right off the bat instead of just receiving it. Unless it's for information, there's no, somebody wants to put a motion up there, there's always gonna be a motion or an option on there. So I think what the chair is saying is that somebody, if doesn't put a motion up there, then there's, I guess, no discussion. You can always put a motion up there and then speak your opinion for or against it, though. But I think what he's saying is put something on the floor to speak to instead of just in general. Does that make any sense?
It does, if I might, Mr. Chair. The only thing is, am I correct in saying in Robert's rules that every motion should have the opportunity for discussion?
I would say correct. Oops.
Well, receipt is a motion, I would suggest.
Thank you. So yes, and the board does use Robert's rules as part of its procedures when it's in session. So there's always opportunity for any director to debate a motion and before it is voted on. And I think the opportunity is provided. I think what I'm hearing, if I'm not mistaken, is the chair is saying unless there's opposition to actually receiving the report, it should be fairly straightforward. And then any subsequent motions that directors wish to make are perfectly fine for the board to consider, if I understand correctly.
That's correct. Is that, that's fine? Thank you. Hey, general matter of interest, no. I got 2. K is
Motion.
consent. Sorry?
Could I make a motion to receive the chair's report?
Oh, well, why don't we do that? Sure.
I'll do that.
To Colburn, and then we got Chapman, and discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Consent calendar, no. Committee chair report. Shirley reports, staff report. Here we go. Accessibility British Columbia Act. Discussion, I already said that. Sorry?
So, yeah, no, that's fine. Call it and then go over to me.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just speaking to this report and, maybe some of the things, it's a bit of a learning process, but maybe some of the things that I'm going to speak to the report, create some thought or ideas or emotion or change a person's mind in terms of what motion they want to put forward. But we'll see how that goes. So the province has enacted an Accessibility Act, which requires local government to address accessibility in their communities. So we're required by September 1st, 2023 to consider the accessibility, if you will, of our regional district and facilities within the SRD. And we have a subsequent motion to follow.
Thank you. Okay, so B, is that the further report identifying options of the budgetary estimates for the meeting requirements of the Accessible British Columbia Act be prepared for consideration by the board. Do you have a motion? We've got a motion from Mulway and a second from Lott. Discussion. Discussion? Oh, sorry, I thought you did. Sure.
Motion's been made.
You made the motion. Yeah.
For B?
I made the motion, you're saying,
Okay, okay, yeah,
or I didn't make the motion. Yeah, okay.
So just for clarity, the motion's on the floor for discussion.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Code of Conduct, scheduled for review, and the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received. Do I have a motion, please? From Wally, and second from Wally. Discussion?
Call the question.
Sorry, call question? Sorry? No?
All in favor?
All in favor?
And then to me.
Opposed? Seeing none, to the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a little bit history on the code of conduct. So the Local Government Act requires a review of the code of conduct within 6 months of the election. So we have a couple options for you. I can speak to the history of it, and maybe this influences some of the motions moving forward. That the board established a code of conduct committee. Unless the board wants to take all 14 of us and we can bring the code of conduct back and discuss it amongst ourselves a number of times. Humble suggestion in the past, what the board did is create a subcommittee of 2 or 3 members, hire a consultant, and we looked at reviewing the code of conduct and possibly making an amendment. One suggestion came up to me that I thought initially was a good one that we didn't have, that there's no place for directors to sign the code of conduct. So let's say we want to review it and make an amendment. One of those amendments may be that directors sign the code of conduct. That's not currently in our code of conduct that you sign it. So it's our duty to review it and or tell the province we're not going to review it, and this is why we're not going to review it, or review it and maybe come up with a subcommittee. There's some options there. Thank you.
Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would prefer committee of the whole. That way all directors have an opportunity right at the get-go to put their opinions and their suggestions for the code of conduct. That's the way we did it last time, and I think it worked pretty good.
Any other comments from the floor? Director Colburn.
So I'm going to make the motion that we go with option A as presented in the report, that we review the director code of conduct and it be scheduled for consideration at a committee of the whole.
Good second from Director Lott. And do we have further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment here? I just came into my mind here, not having an opportunity at receipt to say anything. If someone wants to make a subsequent motion, which was the kind of traditional way we used to do it, which sometimes is a little different than the motion on the floor, how do we work that in? Like, sometimes we'll send motions to staff here, and there'll be a subsequent motion that doesn't show up on the agenda.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd suggest after the initial motion is done and voted on, there would be nothing stopping you to say, I have a subsequent motion as well.
Hey, Duncan Bay Fire Protection Services. From Director Wally, second by Colburn. Do we have discussion? Sorry. Go ahead, Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have a question for staff. First of all, how many homes do we estimate are in that local service area?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Homes, I'm not sure. There's approximately 55 properties.
Okay.
Including a, what I call mobile home park, which I think has like 35 or 36 homes. So there's a variety. There's some farms and there's some acreages and I think a couple of industrial properties. So it's,
all right.
It's no small number, but it's not a huge number.
And do we have any anticipated costs per whatever you call it, property?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they are in the report. I'm not sure, maybe I misunderstand the question.
Cost per home, cost per resident. Do we have an estimate of what that cost would be? We're going to send out, I think in the report, there was a suggestion that we use a little different method of getting a public approval, which I think is excellent. But I wonder if they will all know the exact cost that will be afforded to them before they make that decision.
Right. Yes, they will. Our plan is to, with the board's blessing, or unless the board directs otherwise, to actually hold a meeting of those people prior to asking them to sign off or giving them the form. They can make that choice themselves. But obviously, there will be questions, and we intend to provide as many answers as we can.
Thank you. And just one last question. Can the petition for consent be completed before the bylaw to create the fire service brought to the board?
If I understand the question correctly, no. So in other words, the petition form would reference the bylaw itself?
Okay. So if they turn it down, what do we do? Rescind the bylaw?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if they turn it down, then the board would defeat the bylaw
Okay.
after third reading, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We already did the all in favor on that, on the receipt? I don't believe so. Sorry, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And B is that the bylaw to establish fire protection service for the Duncan Bay Road area of electoral area A be prepared for consideration at the board's next meeting. Do you have a motion, please? Second? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Excuse me. Community Resilience Investment Grant Opportunity. That the report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
Second? From Director Mahoney, and discussion. Nope. Call the question on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? And Sean will speak to this. Thank you. I got enough of that here. Had to clarify that.
Thanks, IT. Through the chair to the board, so Fire Smart is a set of scientifically endorsed principles proven to reduce wildfire risk. What we would accomplish if the motion is moved for this $300,000 grant application is renovations on 2 community buildings, wildfire training, our household debris wood chipping program, Fire Smart rebates for residents, and hire a regional Fire Smart coordinator to assist our First Nations municipalities and electoral areas with wildfire risk reduction initiatives.
Thank you, Director Wally.
Yes, I have a question on this one. Does Area A have the necessary cost estimates to request grant funding to upgrade the Seward Valley Fire Hall, or do we need a feasibility study? Where are we at in that?
Through the chair to Director Wally, yes, we have a high-level cost estimate on the full upgrades required for Fire Hall number 2.
Do we need to proceed with a feasibility study, or when a grant comes available, can we just apply for it?
When a grant comes available, we can just apply for it, yeah.
Director Colburn.
Should I be moving option A so that we have something on the floor to discuss? I would make that motion, then option A in the report that application to the Community Fire Resiliency Investment Grant be submitted for smart activities, and that we commit to overall grant management if it's successful.
I'm sorry, do I got a second? Discussion? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Indigenous Culture Safety Grant Opportunity. Report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
From Colburn and Right? Call on question. All in favor? Opposed? Sean will speak to this. Please.
Through the chair to the board, slight update since Friday's board publication deadline. So Cayuga, Checklisset First Nation, the village of Zabalas, Nuchatlat First Nation, and the village of Seward have all passed the resolutions in support of this that have been received. They're just not present in the report because they were received this week. The 2 primary components of this grant would be funding workshops that support revival of values of Indigenous cultures. Several of you that have been on the board previously have attended the Building Bridges Through Understanding the Village workshop, pre-established workshop set up by an Indigenous facilitator. And then a very exciting potential project would be inventing our workshops and bringing folks from the BC Emergency Heritage Response Network to 5 First Nation communities to teach those communities hands-on skill set in how to salvage and restore their sacred cultural items following a disaster.
Director Colburn.
I'm going to move B then, that an application be submitted and that the SRD commit to the grant management if it's successful.
Discussion? Director
Thank you,
Renoche?
thank you, Chair. I see that the workshops are aimed at just for emergency personnel. I think this is really valuable. I'm just wondering if there is an opportunity in the grant to expand that beyond emergency personnel and have other folks that it would be relevant to be included as well.
Sean?
Through the chair to Director Vonch, it depends on who those other folks are. If that question is, could board members attend? Absolutely. You are our Emergency Operations Center Policy Group. You fall under emergency management personnel. So,
And what about like nonprofit leaders in the community or other groups that, this would be relevant for?
case by case basis, really. So like the Friends of Cortez Island, the Cortez Forestry General Partnership, they already sit on our Cortez Island Disaster Resiliency Planning Committee. So very case by case basis, and can we prove how they would be support during an emergency?
Great, thank you.
So maybe.
Short answer is maybe. All right, thank you. So we had the discussion. Do we have all in favor, please? Opposed? Seeing none, it is carried. Okay, and that was B, so we're on to Seward Valley Protection, Fire Protection. Second, Goldberg. Call on question. All in favor? Opposed? Over to the CAO, please.
Me first. So, Mr. Chair, so we have a current contract the SRD has with the Village of Seward to provide shared fire protection. That agreement contract is coming to an end soon. We're concurrently working on a joint feasibility study, if you will, that we hope to have before the board in January or February. So I think it's staff's wish that we extend that contract on some sort of term basis, and then during that term we'll bring back a report identifying what the future looks like in terms of a shared model. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wally.
Yes, I have a motion to make. Edith, we'll put it on the screen.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Is it different than we got here?
It is.
Slightly. So, option A, that the Seward Valley continue with the contractual arrangement for the Village of Seward Fire Protection Service for 3 months or 6 months if required. The details of the sub-regional service model are worked out.
Second.
And if I might speak to that, Mr. Chair, we just put that little extension of or 6 months on the request of the Village of Seward, just in case it's not ready in 3 months. So I don't think it makes any difference.
Okay, thank you. Any other further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, sorry?
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Public hearing for attendance by directors. So that the report from the CAO be received. Second, called question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none?
So, Mr. Chair, in an effort to not confuse matters, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, fair enough. That's carried. So B was that the public hearing authorized bylaw number 432 and 433, quadrilinks, and bylaw number 465, Ramos, and bylaw 471 and 472, Kerry, be amended by delegating the holding of the public hearing by directors for Area C. Second. Goldberg. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Did I miss something? No? No? It's possible. Okay. 8, Ripple Rock Estate Sewer Outfall, Crown Referral, report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Okay, call on question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Carried. Did you need to speak on that, CAO?
We can, Annika or Meredith can speak.
Thank you.
Thank you through the chair to the board. The purpose of the report before you is to consider a Crown land referral for a statutory right-of-way within the city of Campbell River to accommodate the construction of a sewer outfall into Discovery Passage, approximately 750 meters west of the existing SRD's Race Point Road subdivision in electoral area A. The referral is associated with a previous referral the board saw with respect to a rezoning over the lands to allow for approximately 200 residential properties within the new subdivision referred to as Ripple Rock Estates. The proposal before you is to construct a 185 meter long sewer outfall, which will treat sanitary wastewater with an advanced secondary treatment system, including disinfection, into the Discovery Passage. The report before you is provided for comment, should you wish to provide comment back to Crown Lands with respect to the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Director Wally.
That last item 7 whipped by and I forgot to mention that subsequent motion that I had.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so subsequent motion is that staff bring back a report concerning our procedure bylaw, concerning all electoral area director attendance at virtually at public hearings.
Any second, please? Okay, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your button, please, Director Wally. Thank you. City of Campbell River Development Proposal Referral, 6715 Island Highway. Move receipt. Do I have a second, please? Call on question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. CAO.
I believe Meredith will speak to this for us.
Thank you through the chair. So the purpose of this matter is to consider a referral from the City of Campbell River respecting a Phase 1 subdivision proposal to develop a 6-lot fee simple subdivision on an 85.3 hectare parcel south of Race Point in electoral area A, with access being provided from Race Point and Raceway roads. The subject property was rezoned to Rural 3 last fall to allow the creation of between 35 and 42 hectare-sized residential lots to be serviced by individual wells and septic systems. At that time, the subdivision plan identified access off the highway with no connection to the existing Race Point Road subdivision. Race Point residents expressed their opposition to any potential access that may be considered through the subdivision, but were further assured at the public hearing that access would not be provided through the existing subdivision. The residents also expressed additional concerns regarding the protection of Bering Creek, as it offers the primary water source for most developed parcels in the existing subdivision. The current Phase 1 subdivision proposal under consideration consists of 6 parcels, all of which are proposed to be accessed through the existing Race Point Road subdivision. 5 parcels off Race Point Road and 1 off Raceway Road, as per the attached plan in your report. It is further proposed that those parcels will then be accessed via easement rather than by City of Campbell River road dedication, as the road will be severed from any other city-owned road network. Should this proposal be accepted, considerations around easement maintenance is warranted. It is further noted that proposed lots 1, 3, and 4 do not meet the 10% lot frontage requirements of the Local Government Act. Given that the proposed subdivision is not consistent with the proposal presented and approved during the rezoning process, and proposes to provide access through the existing Race Point subdivision against the desire of the neighborhood, it may be appropriate to request reconsideration of the current subdivision layout. Thank you.
Thank you. First goes to Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move option B, that the Regional District advise City of Campbell River does not support the development proposal for Part Lot 2, District Lots 2930, Sewer District Plan PO 80466. And if I might speak to that, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there's a few concerns noted there in the staff report, road maintenance, shared costs, access, the understanding that the residents had at the public hearing, whether that was a correct understanding or not. So I think by supporting this option B, it will go back to the developer, and further discussions, we can come up with some, perhaps, future agreements to work this out and go ahead in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Dahl.
I'd like to hear from the developer's representative, Kevin Brooks. It's in the room, please.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Chair. There's a couple items of clarification that I'd like to provide. The original rezoning application did have a connection, thank you, did show a connection through the site into the Race Point Road area. The Campbell River process actually requires us to hold multiple meetings, not only a public hearing, but a neighborhood public meeting. It was at the time of the neighborhood public meeting, we heard two key concerns that we addressed actually at the public hearing. The initial concern was the Barron Creek watershed. Our proposal at the public hearing was to actually address that through the restrictive covenant, to actually restrict uses in that area to protect the surface water quality. It's actually a very sensitive surface access water system. Very rare to see these days, probably would never be approved in any modern times. At that time, we also heard traffic issues. It was at that time we actually modified the site plan to actually restrict access all the way through to Race Point Road. But the proposal that we actually presented at the public hearing is the actual lot layout that you have in your package today, slightly modified with the easement. And the easement actually came from recommendation from the city because the city didn't want a satellite road. Our proposal was it would actually be city road and that it'd be maintained by the city, but they were not in support of that. But we're in support of the easement, where that easement would be registered on all parcels with a fractional maintenance requirement for that road right of way onto the Race Point Road for that small chunk that is the easement. So if you have any questions of clarification, I'm happy to answer them. I've been working on this file for approximately 3.5, 4 years now, and have actually met with the community multiple times throughout this iterative process that we have.
Thank you. Any questions? Director
Do you have any?
Berdache?
I can just start talking?
Not really.
Okay. Just wondering, you mentioned these two concerns and you adjusted your plan. Has there been any feedback from the community since then?
Through the chair, through the subdivision process, what we are required to do is actually submit to the city for approval. I have not received any direct feedback from the city in regards to concerns. Through our traffic impact study that we did actually a very large traffic impact study and worked with MOTI through that. And we didn't receive any concerns from that either when we were working through MOTI. So this is the first time that we've been made aware of any of the concerns of having the limited lots front onto Race Point.
Okay, thank you. Director Dahl.
I just want to clarify, this fits the OCP, correct?
Through the chair, yes, this fits the OCP and the zoning. That's how the zoning was approved for this site.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Option B is on the floor. Okay. Sure. Let me just turn side right here. That the regional district, or you could read it from here too. That the regional district authorized by law 432. No. Wrong one, sorry.
You won't find it there.
I won't find it here.
It's not there. It's over there.
I'll read it.
CEO was going to read that for us.
Well, actually, I'll take the burden off Dave. Option B is currently on the floor, moved by Director Wally, seconded by Director Colburn, I believe. that the regional district advise the city of Campbell River that it does not support the development proposal for part of Lot 2, District Lots 29 and 30, Sayward District Plan VIP 80466. That's the motion currently on the floor.
Director Colburn.
I'm just curious where the gap was in the information gathering and that we didn't have this information before we made this motion. I'm just wondering how that works and how we can ease that in the future. But so if we have new information that from the developer that is recognized here and included in the report.
I think so, yeah.
Sorry, was it clear that was a question to staff? Through the chair, all the information that we have comes from the city. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Director Dahl? Sorry, okay, one moment, please, Director Sanat. Director Dahl,
Do you
go
want
ahead.
me?
I just wanted to make the point that I won't be supporting the motion, option B, because it fits with the OCP, and I don't know how we could vote against our own official community plan. That would be voting against our own bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Director Sanat?
Yeah. I'm just going to say as well that I won't be supporting the motion. I believe this is something that the city has supported going forward, and we're going to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. So we had the discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed?
Hands, sorry. Do it again, please.
Opposed? Opposed?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed. Thank you. So the motion is defeated.
Ask if there's a subsequent motion.
Do we have a subsequent motion, Director Dahl?
I'll move option A, that the regional district advise the city of Campbell River that it supports the development proposal for part of Lot 2, District Lots 29 and 30, Sayward District Plan VIP 80466.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. It's Susan.
Thank you. Do we have further discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Opposed?
Do we have the hands up a little longer?
Sorry, have their hands up a little longer? Opposed especially. Keep your hands up for a while, please. We already did the,
No, that was too quick.
too quick,
All in
sorry.
favor.
All in favor?
Including Senate.
So how's your day? I'm sorry. Okay,
8.
opposed? 3. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little quick there.
Let us count.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you. So 10, merging the Connective Coast Contribution Agreement for the CAO's report be received.
Move receipt of the report.
Thank you. Call to question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hopefully the short presentation this morning and the orientations for the A's is helpful in terms of this, and I'll try and keep this brief, but when we got the Connected Coast Award, you've got 3 funding partners, and you got the federal government, the provincial government, and Indigenous Services. And then you've got the other half of the project being awarded to City West, and they also have the 3 funding partners. And then to complicate the matters, the funding was split 70-30. And then to further complicate the matters, you're not building the network linearly. So as I think you can already appreciate, when we were making claims on the Connected Coast project, it was nothing short of a nightmare. At the speed of the federal government moves, that this took about 18 months to figure out that we need to consolidate these agreements. So 3 funding partners, all claims go through City West, and that the regional district will make its claim, submit it to City West. City West will then make it to the partners, and the money will trickle down below. So we've probably spent the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months with the federal government coming to this agreement, and before you see what is characterized as a termination agreement. So our contribution agreement, subject to a few caveats, is extinguished, and the claims will go through City West. Happy to answer any questions, though.
Director Colbert.
I am going to move B, that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute this.
Second, Director Wally.
And if I can speak to it, anything that makes the funding or permitting process speeds that up, I'm in favor of. Thank you.
Fair enough. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Preliminary surplus projections for 2022 financial year, that the report from the CAO be received.
So moved, Colburn.
And Vanosh. And call to question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So while our CFO gets ready, I'll just give a little background information. I know there's a few folks from the city not at municipal services this morning. And what we've done budget-wise, we've tried to create a process that just doesn't have make-work projects and give information to the board that is not real and tangible. Regional, regional districts are quite different than municipalities, where the municipalities can throw all their money into a pot, give a estimated surplus, and figure out a budget based on that. We have dozens and dozens of silos that each budget must be consolidated individually, and therefore what you're going to do in a regional district, there are some local governments that want to make a career out of budgeting. I don't want to do that here. There's not a lot tangibly up to year end that regional districts are going to do. We can't project an estimates for a service and budget based on that. We need to consolidate all of them at the end of the year, get the assessments in, and then see what those are going to look like at the end of the day. So what we try and put our efforts into is planning discussions about what we want to look at the budget and develop surplus reports. So we tried with a previous board about coming up with Q reports, but Q1 report, because regional districts need to finalize their budget by March 31st, is the end of Q1. So there was no sense of doing that. They weren't really in favor of the Q2 report. It was halfway through, we just got started. Q3 is what we have now, and Q4 is, you're gonna see Q4 in January. So the long and the short of it is we provide a surplus budget report to the board to give them some line of sight on the temperature of the individual budgets. And the way we feel best to do that is to show the surpluses. If the surpluses are growing, it means you're probably underspending a little bit. If they're declining, you're overspending a little bit, just to give you line of sight on them. So hopefully, having not stolen all Mike's presentation, what he's going to do is go through a summary of the surplus reports and characterize them in regional services, EAs, and then Strathcona Gardens. Because what we do here is we do everything as a group, or we do them with smaller groups, or we do them with even a smaller group. So we try to characterize those together, and Mike's got a summary and happy to answer any questions at the end. Thanks.
Sorry, I saw a red light. I thought we were good. Sorry, like I was saying, Dave summarized a lot of that. Surplus is just the first step. It kind of gives a temperature as we head into budget about the current year impacts onto the future years. We're different from municipalities in that every dollar we requisition for a service stays within that service. So City of Camp River folks are probably familiar with the waterfall, where that's how they distribute surpluses throughout the organization, whereas ours stays isolated. Our reports are a little bit different than other regional districts. A lot of them just report numerically, so they'll deal with all the fire services, all the admin services, everything else, whereas we break ours down into areas. So we're hoping that's easier to understand. I think I made the report easy enough, so I hope it goes through, but I noticed the one set of numbers I did forget were page numbers, so I apologize if it was a little bit easy to navigate. And then instead of going through each individual service, I thought it'd more open up. We could look at the summaries and then talk about any questions. So,
I'm sorry, I wasn't advised which one to pull up. Is this?
oh, you just bring the, yeah. But it's kind of the general flavor with it is we were quite heavily impacted by COVID, so that kind of deferred a lot of hiring and slowed down some of the projects. So it did elevate surplus from our historical norms. As we get back to normal operations, you're gonna see them going, back down from their historical levels. Anybody have any particular questions on any of the services?
So I just want to, again, if I can add a little bit of background to the surpluses here, is that I think the perception of COVID as it relates to municipalities and regional districts is quite opposite in terms of, I'm gonna say this out loud, but regional districts and the services we have, aside from the gardens, which is a subsidized service anyways, is not really dependent on a lot of fees and charges and things that generate income. So you've actually seen in regional districts that their surpluses likely grew because nobody was hiring, staff weren't relocating, positions weren't being filled. The province was providing COVID money to things. You had, operations shut down. So if you look at these trends in there, a number of them, you'll see the surpluses during COVID actually grew higher than 5-year averages, and then you'll see them decline a little bit as we get back to the norms, which is certainly not the narrative that's out there, because regional districts are a bit of an interesting animal compared to munis, where munis heavily suffered as a result of COVID. There was many of our services that didn't. So if you've looked through it, you've probably seen some of the surpluses grow, and if you see them yanked back a little bit, because that's as we get back to the norms in the 5-year period. So. That's all I got.
Sorry, any questions, directors? No?
I think at the end of the day, what they say, if you've read through them, is the surpluses are quite stable, and there's nothing to be alarmed of looking into year end.
Okay, is there a subsequent? No? Okay, so we have to go all in favor? On the receipt? No, that's already done. Sorry. Okay, so we'll move on. Thank you very much for the presentation. Request for financial assistance, the Sayward Legion, Branch 147. Second? All right. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None? CAO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, and you're moving B.
I'll second that.
You'll second that? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Bylaws. Bylaw number 478, North Quadra Assistance Response Service. Receive report from the CAO. All right.
I'll move receipt.
Second?
Second.
Coburn. Call on question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Carried. And that bylaw 478, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement to 10-1, all directors, a majority of the provision of the assistance response service on Quadra Island be introduced and read for the first time.
I'll move that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Director Mahoney, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I thought that maybe this was the appropriate time to express gratitude to the South Quadra Island Fire Protection District for continuing to offer this rescue, extrication, and hazardous materials emergency response to areas outside of their fire protection district. Thank you to the fire chief and the trustees. It benefits all islanders.
Thank you. Anything else for discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. And the C is the rules be suspended on bylaw 478, be given second and third reading. Motion, please. Director Mahoney. Director Colburn, second. Is that a second, Director Colburn? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. And D, that bylaw 478, being North Quadra Island Assistance Response Service Agreement Authorization bylaw 2 2022 being reconsidered for final and passed and adopted. Thank you.
Second, Colburn.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Okay, bylaw 479, Whaletown Common and Land Acquisition. Report from the CAO be received. Director Raleigh, Director Mahoney. And do we have call on question? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. And that bylaw 479 being the bylaw to authorize the acquisition of land to be introduced to Whaletown Common Park within electoral area B, be introduced for first reading. Do I have a motion, please?
Second, Colburn.
Colburn. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, B is carried. And that the rules be suspended for bylaw 479 to be given second, third reading. Do I have a motion, please?
Second, Colburn.
Colburn. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And D, that bylaw 479 being Whaletown Common Park Edition, authorized bylaw 2022 be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted. Motion from Bernash,
I'll second that.
second from Maureen. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, D is carried. Correspondence.
Move.
Items 1 and 2.
Second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. We did have a new business. That was Director Mahoney, please.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I would like to move that the staff bring a report to the next Electoral Area Services Committee summarizing all Area C grants and aid and economic development grant requests received by the SRD from 2017 through till now in 2022.
Second, Director Wally. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. Different items, nothing, closed session.
I'll move receipt of the report.
Second? Call to question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. And that the closed meeting be held immediately following the termination of the public meeting to consider matters deemed to be fall within the parameters of subsections 90-1 G, I, J, N, O, 90-2-A, and B of the Community Charter.
So moved.
Second, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none.
Move termination.
Second, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. The meeting is now terminated. 1:30, please.